Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. It's a quote from John Dewey. Welcome to AHS Guide, your companion for mastering allied health science concepts. Here we make complex topics into simpler, clear, and exam ready, helping you to learn smarter, score better, and build a strong healthcare foundation. In today's class, we will continue our study of the cardiovascular system. So previously we have covered about the heart size, location, position and chambers of it, as well as we have covered the blood supply of heart, which is the arterial supply, and the venous drainage of the heart, coronary sinuses. Here in today's class, we will continue our study of the CVS system, focusing on the three important areas. Today's video will be about systemic circulation, pulmonary circulation, and branches of aorta. So the systemic circulation is the pathway that carries the oxygenated blood from the heart to the entire body and returns the deoxygenated blood, whereas the pulmonary circulation, the circuit that transport the deoxygenated blood to the lungs from oxygen exchange and brings the oxygen rich blood back to the heart. Now, the branches of aorta will include the major arterial branches from the ascending aorta, arch of aorta, and the descending aorta, and their clinical relevance as well. So by the end of this lecture, you'll have a clear understanding of how the circulatory routes function and how the aorta serves as the main highway distribution of the blood to the entire body. So here is an image of a few images of how the circulation, a double circulation in the heart works. So double circulation because it has two different circuits involving systemic and pulmonary. So as the name says, systemic, which involves the various systems of the body, it is going to cover the oxygenated blood to the various systems and bring back the deoxygenated blood back to the heart. So this is a systemic circulation. Whereas a pulmonary circulation, wherein the name only says pulmonary, meaning lungs. So it involves the circulation between the heart and the lungs. Now here the deoxygenated blood is carried to the lungs. The lungs filters out the carbon dioxide and gives the oxygen into the blood. So these oxygen carried into the blood, the oxygen rich blood is transferred into the heart again. Here it is here again from the pulmonary circulation, the oxygenated blood is pumped out through the aorta. So now we'll also be studying about the aorta in the later part. Here is a clear diagram of how the pulmonary and the systemic circulation works. So this is a very important topic wherein the question might arise for 5 or 10 marks, sometimes on 3 marks as well, depending on the type of question. So the systemic and pulmonary circulation, an overview of the circulatory loops. The cardiovascular system has two main loops, which is pulmonary and systemic. The pulmonary circulation involves the right heart, lungs, and back to left heart. It involves lungs and from right side of the heart to the left side, lungs, then to the left heart. Now the systemic circulation has the left heart blood and finally to the right heart. So the blood is transferred from the left heart to the body and back to the right heart. So that is how the systemic circulation works. Now the pulmonary circulation, the functions that involved in pulmonary circulation is primarily the gas exchange. So carbon dioxide, the deoxygenated blood is taken out to the lungs and the exchange is going to take place wherein oxygen is going to come inside and the role of gas exchange takes place. Here it carries the deoxygenated blood from the right heart to the lungs and returns the oxygenated blood to the left heart. So the flow pathway is here. This is how the pulmonary circulation is. So the blood enters from the right atrium. So from all the body parts, the deoxygenated blood is going to get collected from the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. So superior will consist of all the upper body blood system, that venous drainage that is happening, and the inferior vena cava brings out all the lower body blood that is being deoxygenated and it is drained into the right artery, the right atrium. So from the right atrium, through the tricuspid valve, it enters into the right ventricle. So the blood that is being collected in the right atrium flows into the right ventricle through tricuspid valve. From the right ventricle, it opens into the pulmonary trunk, as you can see here. So from the right side, you can see the number 1. That is where the deoxygenated blood from right ventricle enters into the pulmonary trunk. So from the pulmonary trunk, it again divides into right and left pulmonary arteries. So any vein that is arising from the heart is called arteries. Anything that is received by the heart is called as veins. So this is one exception that you have to keep in your mind. So anything that is being supplied from the heart is always called as arteries. Anything that is received by the heart is called veins. So here you can see that the right and the left pulmonary, it's not a vein, it is an artery, because the blood is being given to the lungs. So that is why it is called artery. This is an exception. You'll see the right and left pulmonary veins as well in the next later part. Here you can see the right and left pulmonary arteries that are being represented in blue color, that is dividing again here into to the right and the left lungs, wherein the pulmonary circulation happens inside the lungs. Now the lungs, the role of lungs is for the gas exchange, and it occurs in the alveolus. So the alveolar capillaries are going to be surrounding around the alveolus. The alveolus is going to do the diffusion part. So when the diffusion takes place, the deoxygenated, the carbon dioxide is exchanged along with the oxygen. So the oxygenated blood is back into the alveolar capillaries. So once the oxygenated blood is received, the pulmonary veins, that is, there are 4 pulmonary veins that are present. So anything that is being given to the heart, received by the heart, is called veins. So this is an exception. Though it is the oxygenated blood, it is called as pulmonary veins. Remember the term that is being used whenever a blood is being received by the heart. So pulmonary veins, there are 4 of them totally, both on right side and the left side of the lungs. The pulmonary veins are received and are going to be dumped into the left atrium. So in the left atrium you get the oxygenated blood. So that is how the fourth pathway of the deoxygenated blood to the lungs and back to the heart is going to happen. So the steps is in 9 steps, so you can remember them. It's easier version. So from the right side of the heart to the lungs to the left side of the heart. That is how the pulmonary circulation works. Now moving to the features of how the pulmonary circulation happens, there is a very low pressure. There is no requirement of extreme pressure or extreme pumping required for the blood to be put into the lungs. So here the low pressure system, it is called low pressure system. Approximately 8 to 20 mm Hg of pressure is exerted on the heart to pump the blood from the right ventricle into the pulmonary veins. So here the vessels are very thin walled and less smooth compared to the ones that is running in the systemic circulation. Here vessels are thin because there is requirement of exchange of gases between the pulmonary circulation. So the blood is oxygenated in the pulmonary capillaries, and the pulmonary arteries carries the deoxygenated blood. So you have to note here, the pulmonary capillaries are going to carry the oxygenated blood. The pulmonary veins are going to carry the oxygenated blood. Veins are said to be carrying deoxygenated blood, but here is an exception. This you have to keep in your mind, so don't get confused when you are studying as well. Pulmonary capillaries, pulmonary arteries are going to be carrying, pulmonary capillaries and pulmonary veins are going to be carrying oxygenated blood, and pulmonary arteries are involved in deoxygenated blood. Now as I've put all the points here, remember these points and don't forget. If you confuse and write the wrong versions of what their function is, then you're going to lose marks. So features is important. Moving to the systemic circulation, which is essential part of our body, wherein oxygenated blood is supplied to each and every cell of your body. Now what is the function of a systemic circulation? Here the oxygenated blood is delivered from the left side of the heart to the body tissues and returns as a deoxygenated blood to the right heart. So the oxygen rich blood is being supplied from the left side of the heart, that is the left ventricle, that is going to pump out all the blood through the aorta and into the body cells. These body cells use the oxygen through diffusion and take out the oxygen, deoxygenated blood from the cells. The deoxygenated blood is being received by the right heart. Now the features of this systemic circulation is they are high pressure system wherein they require much effort for the push of the blood to the whole body. So whereas in the pulmonary circulation, since the lungs are close to the heart, there is no requirement of excessive pressure that has to be exerted on the where vessels are here. But here the vessels require higher pressure because it has to be pumped from the heart to the various corners of the heart, corners of the body. So it might require approximately around 100 mm of Hg of pressure. So this is a high pressure system. You'll have a thick walled arteries because the blood is moving with the pressure. It is flowing with the pressure because that is being given by the left ventricle. So when left ventricle is exerting pressure, the same pressure flows through the blood vessels. So hence these arteries are very thick walled. It supplies all body organs. Yeah, since it is a systemic circulation, all the oxygenated blood is going to be supplied to the all body organs except to the alveoli in lungs, because these are in the alveoli it is not required for the oxygenated blood to be supplied, because there is already diffusion happening because of the pulmonary circulation. So there is an exception where the systemic circulation does not reach into lungs of the alveoli of the lungs. Now it is included in coronary circulation for myocardium as well. So here in systemic circulation, not just the whole body, it also covers the heart as well, whereas heart also requires oxygenated blood. Heart muscles also need oxygen to work efficiently, right? So coronary circulation is also involved in the systemic circulation. Now the flow path here, it is from left atrium. So from the left atrium, the left ventricle is going to receive the blood from the mitral valve, which is the bicuspid valve. So left atrium to mitral valve, from mitral valve into the left ventricle, and from left ventricle it is pushed and pumped out through aortic valve. The aortic valve, wherein the oxygenated blood is being pumped out, has the ascending aorta. So the aorta has branches. The first part of aorta is the ascending aorta, then later aortic arch, and the aortic arch has again further divided into different branches, which is brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, and left subclavian arteries. So these are the different branches of the aortic arch. Then after the ascending aorta, aortic arch, and finally the last part of aorta, which is descending thoracic aorta, and which is going to give the blood supply to the abdomen and the lower limbs. Now the arteries and arterioles, capillaries are going to be the suppliers of oxygenated blood, wherein the exchange of nutrients and gases takes place in the capillaries. So from the capillaries, so the deoxygenated blood is later received by the venules, which is the smaller versions of veins, then from venules to the veins, then to the superior or the inferior vena cava. So the superior and inferior vena cava, you can see here, it is being received by the right atrium. So that is how the flow of pathway takes place inside a systemic circulation. So first A, which is left atrium to the left ventricle, from left ventricle into aorta, the ascending aorta, aortic arch and branches, descending thoracic aorta, followed by the abdominal aorta, and it also covers the arteries, arterioles, finally to the capillaries. From the capillaries, the exchange of nutrients and gases takes place between the cells, and finally the venules, veins, and the superior inferior vena cava receive the deoxygenated blood. All the venous drainage takes place in the right atrium. That is how a systemic circulation works. Now here is the difference of the pulmonary and the systemic circulation. So the blood flow is from right ventricle in case of pulmonary circulation, but in systemic circulation it is on the left side, which is left ventricle. The blood flow is to the lungs in pulmonary circulation, in systemic circulation the entire body. The type of blood that is present in arteries and veins here is, you can see there is opposite versions of it. So in the arteries, the deoxygenated blood is carried to the lungs, and oxygenated blood is received from the veins. Now, in case of systemic circulation, which is what we have been studying, which is oxygenated blood is always carried in the arteries and deoxygenated blood in the veins. Pressure in different systems is low in pulmonary circulation and high in systemic circulation. The primary function of pulmonary circulation is for gas exchange. In case of systemic circulation, it is nutrient or gas delivery and waste removal. The arterial wall thickness is thin in pulmonary circulation and thick in systemic circulation. Now, the clinical relevance of the pulmonary and systemic systems are: here the pulmonary hypertension causes the increased pressure in pulmonary circulation. The clinical relevance of pulmonary and systemic circulation. So pulmonary hypertension is one type of a disorder wherein there is an increased pressure in the pulmonary circulation, that is in the right heart strain. Right heart strain can cause. So whenever there is an increased pressure, so there is an approximate of 8 to 10 mmHg of pressure that is required. But if in case there is more pressure that is being produced or given to the pulmonary circulation, the right heart can be strained. So right heart is a place where all deoxygenated blood is received. So whenever there is an increased pressure, the right ventricle is using excessive pressure to pump out the blood to the heart, to the lungs. So this can cause pulmonary hypertension. Now, systemic hypertension is due to the increased afterload on left ventricle, or there is a risk of heart failure or stroke. Here the afterload is when the blood is being pumped out of left ventricle. So whenever there is an increased pressure that is required to pump out the blood to the body, there is a requirement of excessive pressure to pump out the blood. So whenever the pressure is exerted on the left ventricle and the blood is pumped out, the left ventricle feels the strain. So when this happens, there is a risk of heart failure and stroke as well in patients. Now, the congenital heart disease defects, we will be seeing this in ventricle septal defects, which is in pathology. We will be dealing this topic in cardiovascular system and a pathology topic. You can go and study that later once I upload the video. Now, congenital heart diseases are the defects that are being acquired by the infants or the neonates that are born. So whenever the child is being born, there is a genetic defect in the heart of the newborn baby. So here you can see there is a ventricular septal defect whenever there is a defect in the septum. So septum is the muscular separation between the left and the right ventricle. So whenever there is a defect in the septum, there is leading to mixing of the systemic and the pulmonary blood, which is the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood are going to get mixed up, which can be fatal for the baby. So it can die once the mixing of the blood takes place inside the body once it is born. So it is essential that the genes of your body are working efficiently. Now, shock is another disease that is being seen. It is due to the systemic circulation perfusion. So whenever a systemic circulation perfusion is the exchange of oxygen and a deoxygenated blood is defected, there is cause of organ dysfunction. Here, when the organ is not receiving proper oxygenated blood and it is not removing the carbon dioxide from its organ, then there is cause of organ dysfunction. So the normal functioning of the organ is disrupted, leading to the failure of the organ. If the organ fails, there is cause of septic shock or any other types of shock that is going to lead to the failure of the systemic circulation. Now, deep vein thrombosis or DVT is a common thing that is observed in the ICUs. So to ICUs or the surgical patients, here it can lead to the pulmonary embolism if the clot travels to lungs. So if there is no movement in the exercise or a movement in the human body, there is a cause of clot. The clot formation is observed in the blood vascular system. So if there is a clot or the thrombi, then it might travel through the pulmonary circulation and go and lodge itself into the lungs. So it can go and obstruct the blood flow in the lungs, causing the pulmonary embolism, which is lung embolism is a thrombi or the clot that is disrupting the normal functioning of the blood flow. So deep vein thrombosis is one such clinical relevance related to the systemic circulation. Now moving to the branches of aorta, the last topic for today's video. Here is an overview of how the aorta is being divided. Here the aorta is said to be the largest artery in the body, and it originates from the left ventricle of the heart. So it starts from the left ventricle of heart and is again divided into four main parts. The first one is ascending aorta. The second part is the aortic arch. Next we have descending thoracic aorta, and finally the abdominal aorta. So these are the different parts of aorta, and the aorta is the largest artery in the body. So where does it originate? It originates from the heart, which is on the left ventricle side, and it has the semilunar valves that open up for the oxygenated blood that is being pumped by the left ventricle. Now here in the aortic root, you have certain arteries that are coming out. So these are going to supply these are the coronary arteries. So these are going to supply oxygenated blood to the heart. From the aortic root, we have the next part, which is ascending aorta. So this is the first part of the aorta. Then moving to that, we have aortic arch. So aortic arch is again branched out and is going to supply oxygenated blood to the upper body region. Moving to the next part, which is descending aorta. So it is the next third part of the aorta, and it is moving downwards to the lower limbs. Now we have abdominal aorta, wherein the abdominal aorta supplies oxygenated blood to the abdominal visceral organs. So this is the branches of aorta. We'll be first starting with the ascending aorta. Here it starts at the aortic valve in the left ventricle, and it lies within the pericardium. Pericardium is the covering of the heart, which protects the heart from collapsing whenever it's pumping the blood. So pericardium is a protective layer to the heart. Now the branches of ascending aorta is right coronary artery, left coronary artery. Now the right coronary artery is going to supply to the right side of the heart, wherein it covers the right atrium, right ventricle, and the left part of left ventricle. The part of left ventricle. Part of left ventricle, not completely left ventricle. Okay. Now we have left coronary artery, which is another artery that is arising from ascending aorta, which is further divided. The left coronary artery is further divided in as left anterior descending artery and left circumflex artery. So the left anterior descending artery is moving in the anterior region or the front region of the heart and is descending, that is moving downwards down to the heart. So here it is supplying the anterior interventricular septum, which we have already seen in the previous video. The blood supply of heart, we have covered the right coronary artery and left coronary artery. If you want to watch the video, I'll be putting a link in the description. You can check the description. Left circumflex artery is another artery that is supplying to the lateral and the posterior left ventricle. The aortic arch is the second part of the aorta. Here it curves over the heart from the anterior to the posterior region. So it is literally it is a curved type of aorta, and since it has a curve, it is called arch. It is arch shaped. Now, where is this aortic arch located? It is located in the superior mediastinum. So heart is in the lower mediastinum. In the central region is the right and left atrium that you can see, and at the superior mediastinum you can observe the aortic arch. Mediastinum is a region between the two lungs, so that the position between the two lungs is the mediastinum. Now main branches of aortic arch are the brachiocephalic trunk, the left common carotid artery, and the left subclavian artery. In brachiocephalic trunk, it is supplying blood to the right side only, and it again the brachiocephalic artery or the trunk gets divided again into two types, which is right common carotid artery it is going to supply to the head and the brain, and the right subclavian artery, which is going to supply to the right upper limb, which is your right arm or right hand. Now, the second branch of aortic arch is left common carotid artery, which is going to supply to the left side of your head and brain. So, the oxygenated blood travels to the right side. Right side is through the brachiocephalic trunk or the right common carotid artery. To the left side of the head and brain, it is left common carotid artery. And finally, left subclavian artery, which supplies to the left upper limb and some parts of the brain, which is going to act as a vertebral artery. The descending thoracic aorta, here we'll be saying the last part of aorta. Here the position of thoracic aorta is posterior to the mediastinum. So it's in the posterior region and it is posterior to the mediastinum, that is behind the mediastinum, and it also is anterior to the left side of the vertebral column. So vertebral column is in the medial region, so it is to the left lateral region where it is mostly covering the left part, and this thoracic aorta is passing through the aortic hiatus. Aortic hiatus is an opening for the aorta to pass through. So this is present in the anterior region of thoracic 12th vertebrae. So this is where the abdominal aorta is going to be giving rise to. So the descending aorta at the T12 region, it is going to be called as abdominal aorta. Now the branches of thoracic aorta are the bronchial arteries, the esophageal arteries, the mediastinal arteries, then we have pericardial arteries, the posterior intercostal arteries and the subcostal arteries. Here in the bronchial arteries, the lungs and the bronchi are going to be supplied with the blood, oxygenated blood. Esophageal arteries, as the name says, it is supplying to the esophagus. Then the mediastinal arteries is going to be supplying oxygenated blood to the lymph nodes and the mediastinum. Pericardial arteries are going to supply to the pericardium, the protective layer of the heart, the outer layer of the heart, wherein it keeps the heart fresh and from the collapsing or from the amount of the work that is being done by the heart. The posterior intercostal arteries are going to be covering the intercostal spaces of the artery on the posterior region of the ribs. So this is the region between the two ribs, that is called intercostal space. So there the arteries are going to be supplying to the thoracic wall and the spine. So from the 3rd to the 11th rib the supply of descending aorta is observed through the posterior intercostal arteries. So it's going to branch out and move into the lateral region of the ribs. And the subcostal arteries, like below the 12th rib, the descending aorta is going to supply the blood. Now here is the position, the blood supply and how the descending aorta is observed. So it is running from T4 to T12, that is thoracic 4th vertebrae to thoracic 12th vertebrae. This is the anterior view. You can see various structures that are close to the descending aorta. The on anterior region you can observe it, the descending aorta is mostly to the right side of the heart, and you can see the esophagus as well. Then you have root of left lung that is passing over the aorta. Then we have left main bronchus that is again that is passing over the descending aorta. To its right side, you can observe there is a right lung, left atrium and right crux and azygous vein and thoracic duct that are close to the right portion of the descending aorta. Then the supply of descending aorta, where all it is supplying the oxygenated blood, it is supplying to the posterior intercostals from 3rd to the 11th rib, subcostals, that is 12th vertebrae or the 12th rib, below the 12th rib, it is supplying blood over there. Then it is supplying blood to the esophagus, bronchus, phrenic and mediastinal, spinal as well. Moving to the last part of the aorta, which is abdominal aorta. It begins at T12 and ends at lumbar 4, which is from thoracic 12th vertebra to the lumbar 4th vertebrae. The abdominal aorta is the size of it. So from below 11 lower lumbar region, it is again divided into common iliac arteries. So this abdominal aorta can be grouped into three major types, which is unpaired visceral branches, paired visceral branches, and finally the parietal branches. The below whatever region is below the abdominal region, abdominal aorta is the terminal branches, which is right and left common iliac artery. We'll first see the first branch, which is the unpaired visceral branches. So these are not in pairs; they are single versions. The single artery is going to divide into branches. So the first type of unpaired visceral branch is a celiac artery, which is at the T12 level. Here the celiac artery is again dividing into three different arteries, which is left gastric artery, splenic artery, and common hepatic arteries. So here the left gastric artery is going to supply blood to the stomach. You can see there is a blood supply. There is a trunk, the celiac trunk in the beginning of the abdominal aorta. Here the celiac trunk is dividing into three different arteries, which is left gastric artery, which is going to supply to the left region of the stomach. So it is providing arterial supply, blood supply to the gastric region. Next we have splenic artery, which is providing blood supply to the spleen and the left region of the stomach, the posterior region of the stomach or the lateral region of the stomach. Then we have the hepatic artery, the common hepatic artery, wherein it is supplying blood to the liver. Now moving to the celiac trunk, then moving to the next type of artery, which is superior mesenteric artery. This is supplying to the midgut, that is, it is supplying blood to the large intestine and the small intestine, the mid region of the gut. Here you can see the supply of superior mesenteric artery. It is an unpaired artery. There is no two similar types of arteries. It is just a single type of artery that is going to branch up. That covers the superior mesenteric artery. Then we have inferior mesenteric artery, which is below the superior mesenteric artery, and this is supplying to the hindgut, that is the ending part of the intestines, and mostly to the large intestine and the descending colon. Moving to the second type or second group of abdominal aorta, which is paired visceral branches. So paired is on left and right side as well. The arteries are observed. Here renal arteries, because it is supplying both to the right and left kidneys. Suprarenal arteries, again here suprarenal meaning above the kidney, which is adrenal gland. So these are going to supply blood to the adrenal glands above. So these adrenal glands are going to be supplied blood from the suprarenal arteries. The gonadal arteries are involved in the blood supply to the gonads, which is, if it is a male, testicular artery; if it is a female, it is an ovarian artery. That covers the paired visceral branches. Now the parietal branches will involve the inferior phrenic artery and the lumbar arteries. The inferior phrenic artery is going to be supplying blood to the diaphragm, and the lumbar artery is going to supply blood to the posterior abdominal wall and the spinal cord. So as the name says, lumbar meaning behind or the posterior region. So here is an image of how the different types of arteries that are present. You have inferior mesenteric artery, the superior mesenteric artery, then we have lumbar arteries, which are parietal branches of the abdominal artery. Then you have testicular artery if it is a male, or a female ovarian artery. Then we have median sacral artery, which is going to produce oxygenated blood to the sacrum. We'll be studying about that in the descending the terminal branches of the common iliac arteries. Here it is going to be till the parietal branch. Moving below the parietal branch is the terminal branches, which is below the left lumbar or the lumbar region. So at the lumbar fourth vertebra, you can see two different branches that is arising from the abdominal aorta, which is a left and a right common iliac artery. It is a common iliac artery wherein again it is divided into two branches, which is external iliac artery and the internal iliac artery. So the external iliac artery is going to supply blood to the lower limbs, and internal iliac is going to be supplying blood to the pelvic organs. Clinical relevance is an important topic wherein you will be studying why you need to study anatomy. So there are certain disorders that are related to this anatomy. So you can find out the certain diseases that are relevant to these anatomical structures. Now aneurysm is one pathological condition wherein the blood vessel is not is dilated very badly. So it is going to be wide. The blood vessels are so wide that the blood supply is going to go and either cause aneurysm, that is going to be again moving to the next part of blood vessels. So dilatation of the blood vessels is aneurysm. We'll be studying about aneurysm in detail, its types, the pathologic conditions, causes why aneurysm is happening in the pathology chapter of cardiovascular system, which I'll be uploading in future. So here in aneurysm, it is seen in, if it is seen in abdominal aorta, it is complicated because the blood flow is not normal in case of dilated blood vessels or the wide blood vessels. Now coarctation, again this is a congenital narrowing of the blood vessels. Here if the blood vessels are narrowed down, that is there is a smaller space for the blood supply. So when it is narrowed down, the hypertension or the blood pressure might be high. So coarctation of aorta, we'll be studying about this in the again pathology. This is usually found in the arch of aorta, coarctation. Now dissection, this can be due to surgical procedures that is being conducted or due to certain minimal tears that is happening inside the blood vessels. So the intimal layer has going to have a tear in the blood vessel, leading to the entry of blood into the walls of aorta, or the hematoma might happen. Hematoma is bleeding internally and causing a blood entry into the visceral organs, and it might lead to the entry into the aorta as well. The coronary artery disease is a common type of disease that is seen in recent times. So this is due to the blockage on the ascending aorta or any branches of ascending aorta. So there is a formation of a clot or the cholesterol, the atherosclerosis, or due to the excessive obesity or anything that is blocking the blood vessel or the branches of ascending aorta, the coronary artery disease is observed, which can lead to heart attack or various other heart pathological conditions. So here we have completed the different topics under cardiovascular system. So in today's video, we have studied about the pulmonary circulation, the systemic circulation, and the branches of aorta, the functions, features, the flow of blood, the different names of the arteries. It might be difficult to grasp all the names at once, but visually understanding the concepts is important. So whenever you're trying to study an abdominal artery, you must be able to, abdominal artery or any other artery that you are trying to study, you are supposed to imagine how the aorta is. The image of the aorta is going to help you. So when you're writing your answers also, try inculcating diagrams into your answers. So whenever there is a question about abdominal aorta, for example, you can draw the simple diagram of how the different arteries that are arising from the abdominal aorta. So this is going to help you understand the concepts easier. It can help you during the clinical practice also. It can help you during theoretical practice also. Now, the other aspects of the cardiovascular system that is involving various other arteries, veins, that major veins and arteries that are important to study will be covered in another video, which I'll be posting in future. Till then, keep watching AHS Guide. You'll get the notes in the description. The previous videos of cardiovascular system link also be provided in the description. If you have any doubts, put it in the comment section. I'll be trying to cover it up. Thank you. Bye-bye.